Push, push. Okay, now step back. Don't get your legs tangled up.
Like this?
Perfect. Bring your hands back to the ready position.
Where's that?
Not again. Come on, Jake. Right hand by your side, left hand forward on your staff.
Like this?
Better. Now bring up the spike end. Good. Strike. Jake brought the staff up over his head and jammed the metal spike down towards his imaginary foe. I decided when he was about 5 years old to start training him on how to defend himself against an attack by the undead. I knew he wasn't strong enough to kill a zombie at the time, but he could generate enough leverage to trip one and get away. As he grew older and stronger, I had shifted his training to killing a downed Z. We trained a few times a week, working on making his motions more reflex than conscious thought, but being 7 years old, it took a few times for the lessons to sink in. On the other side of the patio wall, I could hear Charlie work with his daughter Julia. We had tried working the kids together, but they ended up trying to hit each other with the sticks, so we separated. Julia was a year younger than Jake was, but she took to the training as if she was born to it. Charlie began wondering aloud if she might be ready to take on a zombie, but his wife Rebecca heard him once, and that was the end of that. Jake wiped the sweat off his head and looked sideways at me with his big brown eyes. He reminded me of his birth mother when he did that, and made it hard to refuse the question I knew was coming. When can I kill a real zombie? I looked around for Sarah, his stepmother. When I saw the coast was clear, I whispered, "Soon, when you're ready." Jake's shoulders slumped slightly, and he looked away towards the patio wall, where a clacking sound could be heard. Charlie sparred with Julia as part of her training, and I figured it was time for Jake to spar as well. "Put the staff away and then come on back," I said, taking off my pistol and placing it on the nearby table. "Are we fighting?" Jake asked, suddenly eager. "We'd better, or Julia will kick your butt again." Jake scowled. "She cheated." But he ran to put his staff on the rack by the door. When he returned, we began sparring, Jake throwing punches and kicks, and me blocking and instructing. I taught him holds and how to break holds, and we practiced those as well. One thing Jake was really good at was kicking. His balance was excellent, and he could kick several times without putting his foot down. I was a fooler sometimes because after a kick you expected a reprieve, not another kick. "John or Charlie?" the radio called from the table. I raised a hand to stop Jake's next attack and picked up the radio. "Go ahead, Tommy."
"Duncan says he thinks he may have spotted a Z down by the river."
"Whereabouts?"
"West side of the driveway, about 50 yards out."
I thought about that for a second, getting my mental bearings. "Okay, we'll take a look. How are the repairs coming?" One of the cows got spooked and rammed into the fence on the island that served as our primary pasture and rendezvous point.
"Almost there. Stupid cow busted 3 fence posts."
Tommy sounded properly disgusted. "Understood. John out." I put the walkie away just in time to see Charlie walking around the corner with Julia. Even though she was his adopted daughter, she actually looked enough like him to be confused as his real daughter. "Everything all right? I heard the radio," Charlie said, tousling Jake's hair. Jake ducked under the hand, grabbed his staff, and squared off against Julia, who grinned in anticipation and brought up her own staff. "Tommy says Duncan may have spotted a Z down by the west side of the driveway," I said, putting my holster back on. "I'll take a look and see what's up." Charlie nodded. "I'll come with you. Brush is kind of thick on that end." I gladly accepted the help. Charlie was one of the best woodsmen I'd ever met, and if he wanted to take a walk in the woods with me, all to the good.
"Are you going to fight a zombie?" Jake asked as we turned and headed them to the lodge.
"I'm just going to see if there's someone down there who shouldn't be. That's all," I said, looking over at Charlie, who didn't help by grinning at me. Before the words left my mouth, I knew what was coming next.
"Can I come with? Please?"
Jake turned and walked backwards, turning on the full power of his brown eyes.